Hi, everyone, or for those of you who are watching this later. Today I am going to be going over research and like the whole process of it. So I've got community submissions. I've got three, I think three from YouTube and then three from Instagram. And I'm going to start with the YouTube ones, and we're going to kind of go through the whole process of like researching the era and the designers and figuring out the value. And then if you guys want me to, I will also do some product descriptions, so you can just kind of see like the keywords that I use and the things that I think are important to point out. Yeah, so let's go ahead and wait for a few more people to show up maybe. I will also be answering any questions that you might have to the best of my ability while we're doing this live stream. So you can use the comment box, and I should be able to see it on my StreamYard and be able to reply to you if you have any questions. So let's see. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you so that you can see. All right, so I'm going to start here. Let's see. Is that right? Okay. All right, so there we go. What am I doing? Okay, this is what I was looking for. So these are the things that I'm going to be looking up today. This first dress is by Emmy, which is not a brand that I have ever heard of before. It looks like it's probably a European brand. And I am pretty confident in saying that this is from the 70s. You do have materials content, and you do have some, this 13 right here. This is some sort of like indicator of care instructions. So those were kind of introduced in the 70s. You will find older garments sometimes that have care instructions on them, but with this one having the very 1970s sizing, and it also has the materials, and then you've got this one, this 13 here in a triangle, which I think is a foreign care label. So we're going to see what we can find about this one. We do have an RN number. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to look up the RN number. So this is a website that a lot of resellers will use as well. And if something is missing its brand tag, but it's got an RN number on the tag, you can look up what the brand is. So I'm going to search the RN database, and I needed 41619, I think. So Lori of Malibu. I have never heard of this. And I am going to copy this and go to Google. And I'm going to look up Emma. It was Emma, right? Oh, Emmy. And I'm going to put this address in. See what comes up. Okay. So this is a family home, I think. Let's see. Okay. Here's a clothing store. All right, so we're not finding any necessary information, but it looks like maybe this was imported by Lori of Malibu. So let's try finding out if that was a store in the 70s. Great, that did not work. Let's do this. Okay. So this is a website that I use. You have to pay for it, and unless you're like an in-depth researcher. All right, so here we go. These 1969. Let's see. All right, so Lori of Malibu swimsuit. So it was a brand. Let's see what our earliest date is here. This is probably, yeah, that's not going to be anything. Let's try. So we've got 9 results in the 60s, 7 in the 70s. Let's look at these. Okay, that's not it. I'm going to check back in with you guys and make sure you can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen okay? Are we good? Are you following along? I'll check back in a second. All right, so I'm not seeing anything in the 70s. I did see, so we've got this one ad in Texas for a Lori of Malibu swimsuit in 69. And let's check the 80s. Maybe it's going to surprise me here. All right. So no. All right, so really we're just looking at that one ad, and that was from 69. So, I mean, that's very close to the 70s. I didn't mean to click on that. All right, so let's look up the actual brand name on the tag. Any Rome, Paris. Let's see. Okay, so here's something. Let's check that out. We love the Vintage Fashion Guild. Okay. Search for Amy. Okay. All right. So Adolfo. Okay. I don't think that's it. Let's try and see if there's any others. Okay. So there is this label, Emmy, and Adolfo left there in 62. Let's see if anyone on Etsy has more information. Okay. So wedding dress. Amy Uno. And the dome. Okay, so there's really just this one. Also very 70s. So that definitely confirms my suspicion that this is from the 70s. The seller says, okay, so the designer label is Emmy. This dress is from my 2 British ladies who lived in Paris. Okay, so I'm gonna guess that this dress that we're looking for was purchased abroad and brought back. Probably someone went on vacation. It does have an RN number. It's possibly that it was imported and sold by Lori of Malibu, but I am not sure about that. So this one, I hate when they don't have like a picture of the tag, but all right, I'm going to check and make sure. Okay, everyone can see. Okay. All right, so this is the closest thing that I found. So we're going to definitely say 70s. And I think the dress that we're looking at is much better than this one. I think the color palette is a lot better. I think the design is very attractive and modern. It has the original belt here, which I love. Very nice, sleek shape. And then this back is just stunning. So this other person has theirs priced at $55, and I think that if I were going to price this dress, I would I mean, if it's in mint condition, and this one looks really nice, I think that I would probably price it around 78 is usually my go-to because it's under 80, so you get a little bit less of the sticker shock, but only by $2, so you still get good money. So I would probably price this at 78. I do think it's possible you could get a little more for it. I mean, if we look down here at the hem, you've got the birds, you've got the irises, so you might find someone who particularly loves irises and so really falls for this dress. It's nice when things have a definitive like characteristic that can play on someone's loves. Like if I found a dress that had a fox on it, I would pay a lot more for it than if it was just like a floral. So if you have something that has like a flower and you can identify it, then a lot of times people might be looking for something with that particular, like their favorite flower or something like that. So yeah, I think that I would price this at 78, although I think that you would not be out of line up to like $98 if you wanted to. You might have to sit on it a little longer, but again, you might just find someone that's perfect for the dress. And it does look like this is their cover shot, which is very pretty, but to me it's all about this back and then the print with the bird and the irises. So that's what I would showcase if I were taking pictures of this dress and trying to like make someone fall in love with it. That's what I would do. Let's see. I will ask you guys, do you want me to write a description for it? So an RN number is, yes, it's US based, but it's like you have to have one to be able to import clothing. A WPL is, that's older. I feel like it has to do with wool, but so let's look that up. No, that's not it. Okay, yeah, it is wool. So 1941 to 1959, WPL numbers were issued. That's not saying that the item is definitively from that era, because people still kept their WPL numbers and they might still be printed on the tags. But it's probably gonna be like mid 60s or earlier, because they would have phased that out with the addition of like getting an RN number instead. So yes, so but you will find WPL numbers mostly on brands that either started with wool fabrics or it's like on a wool garment. I'm sorry, this is hard to explain. The item that you find a WPL number on might not actually be made of wool, but the company would have dealt in wool at some time and have been required to put a WPL number on their clothing. So they would have their tags printed up and it would have a WPL number on it, even if the item was not made of wool. Hopefully that was clear, but yeah. So RN numbers post 1950s. Let's see. Yeah, so you guys just let me know if you want me to do some descriptions, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item. So let's see. So that one. Okay, next up is I had someone send me this dress here, and they were curious because they had heard the value of India gauze and gauze cotton or gauze rayon, and they had some dresses that said they were from India and were like a gauze material, and they were interested in like the value. So this is not exactly what they are talking about when they say that there's like a large value to India gauze items. So I'm going to try and show you the difference between like how to kind of identify that. So if we look for a beanie, so this is kind of the aesthetic that we're going for when we are looking for an India caftan. A lot of times you will have this like square bib along the neckline. You will have mostly long sleeves. Sometimes they have like ties at the neck or tassels at the neck. They have gathered cuffs usually. Sometimes they have like a bell sleeve, and they are block printed. So what that means is they will take blocks and they will carve them, and then they will roll out the ink onto the blocks and then press it onto the fabric. And then they will do this layering, multiple layers. Like you can see right down here, this little like white spot right there. That's where the ink pattern like didn't match up. So, but that's an indicator of it being block printed. Because it's never going to be like absolute perfect alignment. You've got like wrinkles in the fabric and everything like that to kind of make it not print perfectly. So this is sort of what we're looking for when we talk about an India cotton dress. Let's look at this one. So this is obviously on reserve, but we can still look at it. You will often see like, you see the little shimmers down here, the silver lame that goes through it. That is very popular for the area. That's like a lurex. And again, you can see like that sort of gathered neckline, the long sleeves. A lot of times it will have a border print, and it's the softest, like gauziest, almost sheer cotton. Adini is a great brand to look out for. And as you can see, some of them are going to be very, very valuable, and some of them are going to be more of like the $100 range. So let's go ahead and take a look at the one. Oh, this one's really pretty. That's really beautiful. So let's go ahead and take a look at the one that is submitted. So this is by Fairy. No brand that I've ever heard of. It was made in India, but I'm not seeing a materials tag. I don't think this is cotton. I could be wrong, but it looks like a rayon to me. Especially since it says hand wash in the cold and only a warm iron. That would kind of indicate that it's a synthetic that could be like burned or the color could bleed, or rayon can rip when it gets wet. The structural integrity is not as good, very similar to silk. Whereas with cotton, I don't think that you would have these care instructions. So this is going to be an actual Indian garment. Let's try and figure out which kind it is. So I'm going to go to Google. India long tunic dress. Okay. So this is sort of what we're looking at here. I'm going to try and find a name for these. No, that's not it. Let's do this. Okay. So I think this one is just going to be like a printed kurti. And so we're going to go here and do India kurti fairy vintage. See if anything comes up here. Not seeing anything. Sometimes the problem with a name like fairy is that it's so ubiquitous that it would be in lots of searches. So let's go and see if we can figure out a value. Okay. So here's kind of going to be a similar one. You'll definitely want to market that. Like, unless you're specifically, I mean, you can put kurti in the listing because that is, you know, what it is. But unless you're just specifically marketing to like an Indian clientele, then you might just want to use keywords like kaftan and rayon gauze, soft, lightweight. Let's look at it. And you can kind of, this is not a paisley, but you could, it's kind of got those swirls. So you could put paisley in there. You could do floral. I see some floral designs here. It's got a front zip. So I would absolutely also label this as like a house dress. I would make sure to note that it's nursing friendly. Nothing better than just unzipping and going for it. So those are all things that could help sell it. And it does have pockets, so that is definitely a plus too. And I'm not sure how tall she is, but it does seem like a maxi length. So that's nice for like the kaftan. It's short sleeve, so like a summer kaftan. Got all these open. And I'm going to say for pricing, I would probably go with like between 45 and 55, depending on the condition. That seems like a really good price. And yeah. So I think, and then we've got a lot of information here on this tag in terms of care material, like care instructions. So I feel like this is on the more modern side. I would say that it's 90s at earliest. And I mean, I still think that it has value, but I don't think that it's like the 70s. Let me show you some of the 70s labels so you can kind of get an idea. Let's see. This one going to have a... This one might. I hate when it doesn't have like a, okay, here we go. Let's see if we can zoom in on this. All right, so this is not the brand I searched for, but you can kind of see that it's quite a different tag, and it's like a single layer tag, and then it's stitched down into the dress. It's not like the loop style tag. And then it obviously doesn't have any care instructions. It does have materials, but it doesn't have any care instructions here. So that's going to be one example. I'll see if I can find one more. So you have to be careful. Some of these are not going to be vintage. So let's see if maybe we can. Yeah, we can't see that tag very well. I always hate when they don't put tag pictures in. All right, well, I don't want to spend too much time looking at that, but that just, it kind of gives you an idea. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's see. Okay. So Gail says, is this the name of what we're looking at? Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, a bit like this, although these seem a little bit shorter, and obviously they would have like the matching pants to go with it. I'm not sure if yours had the slit up the side, but that's kind of indicative of the difference. I find we have a large Indian population here, so I do find a lot of these types of things at the thrift store. And again, usually you can see like the slit goes up a little bit higher. Yeah. But I think, I mean, using any of those keywords, you're going to find people who are looking for that sort of style. And it wouldn't hurt to throw both of the keywords in. All right. Next up, we're going to do this robe. This is a very, very pretty robe. I love this. So just looking at this, I feel like it's 1930s, 40s sort of old Hollywood sort of style. You can see here it's got more of like an open front. It's got very long sleeves. So what that would mean is that the cuff would sort of make them billow out a little bit more. So it would have like very nice loose sleeves because no one's arms are really that long. And then we've got here, you can see, it's not zooming in very well, but you can see there's like a hook and eye here. And then it ties with the bow. In the back, you can see all the gathering down here at the waistline. And oh, here's a closer picture of the hook and eyes at the waist. And then I think this here is really a good telltale sign of the age of this, because you've got these pinked seams, which sort of fade away after the 60s. They were used a lot by home seamstresses. So a lot of times you'll find stuff that doesn't have a label and it's got pinked seams. And what it does is pinking the seam prevents fraying. So the triangles will fray, but the main body of the seam stays, the integrity stays strong. So you see this early on. I think the earliest that I've seen pinked seams is like the 20s, but I think the pinking shears were invented in the 1800s. They just had different ways of finishing seams, but it's really the hand finished hem here. Let's see if I can zoom in on this. So you can kind of see it's very similar to a scarf. So they would have rolled the hem and then stitched it with like a looped like binding stitch. And so that is a very good indicator that this would have been hand finished and that it is probably, I'm going to say 1930s or early 40s, but I really think 1930s, like early 30s, because then we get into wartime rationing, and this is a lot of fabric, and they were not allowed to use so much fabric, especially for something as frivolous as a nightgown. And you can also see this, see if we can see it a little bit better here. You can't, but I think that this is a very delicate, nice lace. It's not like a synthetic lace. I wish I could touch it, but pretty confident that this is a 30s piece. Now that would all come from just like me knowing the construction techniques. You kind of see the lace here. Very, very pretty. It almost looks like a soutache lace, but it's hard to tell. So we are going to go, there's no tags on this one. Let's see. First thing I'm going to do is check Etsy. So we're going to do 30s dressing gown. See what comes up. And a lot of times I'll have to go in and filter by vintage because you just love to make all that stuff come out. So here you have a very similar robe. This one is tagged as 40s. It's not as nice as ours, but a very similar like shoulder structure, kind of similar sleeve structure, and the seaming. You can tell it was pinked at one point, but let's see here. Here's one that's sort of, pink was very popular in the 30s, especially this like blushy pink peach color. Late 20s, early 30s, this was a very popular color. You can see on this one, they've got like snap closures. So they've got this one at 85. I think ours is much nicer. Better finished, very pretty. Some very nice details, especially with the lace at the front. Yeah. I think it would be interesting to cut a piece of this fiber and test to see if it, like what material it is, because it's very possible that it's silk, which would be obviously make it more valuable. Here's a, I mean, I would put this sort of here on par with like the quality of what we're looking at, and you can see they're having a sale right now, but it's a $165. And that honestly is about where I would price this piece. So yeah, this one's been patched a little bit, but let's see if they tested it for materials. Yeah, so I feel like I would price this at least at that 160, 170 mark, or possibly a little higher. It is beautiful. Like here's one $298. So I don't think that that is out of the question. Obviously, you're selling to a collector at that point, someone who really knows what they are looking for. This one is beautiful, and so is ours. So I feel pretty confident that this is like 30s or 40s. If it had tags, I would obviously use that to look it up, but most likely this would have been made by a seamstress or, you know, a dressmaker of the time. It's possible that it came from a department store and that the tags have just like washed away. But with the hand finished hem and the pinked seams, I feel like probably this one was hand or custom made. And yeah, you guys have any questions about that one? Let's see. I wish they showed the inside seams of this one, but this isn't that type of shop. Let's see. Here's another one. It's unusual to find zippers, but not so much in lingerie. So you'll see the very like thick zipper here. And so, I mean, this is accurately dated, but I just wanted to point out that a lot of times if you do see zippers in the 1930s or the 1940s, that they were, or the early 1940s, they were often in lingerie. So yeah, this one is pretty as well, and it looks like a very similar material. The hem here is a little messy, like in bad shape, so I think that's why this one is a little bit cheaper. But yeah, for ours, I think we would want to go on the higher side and sell to more of a collector. It's a very pretty sleeve detail where you've got the piped seams here, or the piped, they're button loops, but it's made out of the same fabric, and then you've got these nice fabric covered buttons. So it's very nicely made, and yeah. Now let's do this red one here. So the seller of this one suspected it was 1950s. I'm pretty confident it's 1970s. So we're going to do some research here. And I think this is very interesting. This Chevy Chase here, Washington, D.C. I'm going to Google this, see what I can come up with. So, all right, well, clearly this is a search that's been done before. All right, so this is a Washington boutique, Saks Jandel. And finding out when it opened will certainly help. Okay, so Chevy Chase is the location. MD, that's Maryland. So outside of Washington, D.C. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so wow, 128 years this boutique has been open. So that really opens it up to like a lot of, yeah, a lot of timing. All right, let's see here. Let's do this. So we are going to add a location. Let's see. We're going to go for Maryland here. And we're going to do snow on the 70s, nothing earlier than the 70s. So let's see. All right. So this is a very high-end lace. That bodes well. And Alright, that's not helpful. Let's do. Let's take out Maryland and see what else we have for the 70s. So a lot of times there would be mentions of where someone got the clothing that they are wearing while an interviewer is interviewing them. So if you use newspapers.com, that comes up a lot. But they don't necessarily show pictures of what the person is wearing. Like here, it's just, she rolled up in a limo to this location and swept out with her hairdresser, but it's not going to help us date the actual item that we're looking for. Yeah, so it looks like they didn't do a lot of newspaper advertising. So we are going to have to look at the construction of this one. And so the things for me that are 1970s is that you do have a waist stay. So this is called a waist stay, and it would have gone around the waist to hold up, for example, a very heavy skirt, or to make sure that the waist stays in a very particular location on the body. And you'll often see it in a piece that is either very heavy on the bottom, or it has a very structured bodice that needs to stay in place. But this one does have a waist stay, and that is common from about, I say I've seen it most from the 50s to the 70s, and that's not to say that it can't be in other eras, but that's, I've had multiple dresses from the 70s with a waist stay here. And see, you've got this nylon zipper. It's not impossible to have a nylon zipper in a piece from the 50s. But you also have, you see how nice and clean this buttonhole is, and how tight that sort of edge serging is. I don't see that a lot in the 50s. And then your hook here is very shiny. So I really do think that this piece is from the 70s. And you also have these ruffled cuffs and the ruffled neckline, which is very typical of the 70s. You have a more defined shoulder, which would be a little bit of that 70s does 40s sort of revival. So I just think that we are most likely looking at a 1970s piece. Let's see if we can do a little bit with the value. So if this were me and I was creating the listing for this, I would put in information about the store and name drop some of the other brands that they had sold before. So Givenchy and I can't remember some of the others, but very high-end brands. And so you want someone to know that they are purchasing something that came from a place where they sold couture, basically, in the DC area for the wealthy individuals, most likely wives of politicians. And here you can kind of see some fur ads. Here's an Yves Saint Laurent one from '83. And let's see. I am going to take out Saks because I feel like we are getting a lot of Saks Fifth Avenue stuff, and that's not what we're looking at. So I'm just going to search Jandal. All right, and we don't have a lot of options here. Let's check Vintage Fashion Guild and see if they have a Saks label. No. Let's try Saks. I'm just going to come up with Saks Fifth Avenue. Yeah. All right. So, let's see. Where's this one? Oh, same one. All right, let's see. This is a coat though. Sold. Oh, wow. That's a lot of money. All right. Okay, not to be confused with Saks Fifth Avenue, its neighbor across the street. Saks Jandal is independently owned by the Marx family of Washington. Their niche is high style and high fashion. Okay. The roof is a vestige of the original 1970s design. It's being renovated. Okay. So unfortunately, there's not like a ton of information. Let's see if we can. Somewhere down in here. Yeah, but all right. Let's see. No, it's not going to be it. Somewhere on Pinterest is something for Saks Jandal. Let's see if we can find it. John Galliano. Right. So I can't find too much on this. It looks like, oh, I didn't mean to put that. Well, because this is a house label dress, so it doesn't have any other designer inside. I would probably, and it's not shown, but it does have a couple of visible men's. So here's one right here you can kind of see. And someone who is more of a collector would mind something like that. But someone who just wants it for a party would not. I think if this were me, I would probably price this one around the like 125 to 150 price point. I do think that I would call in the listing the location that it came from and explain a little bit more about it and how it was a high-end boutique, and that, you know, they sold all of these amazing brands there, and that this is beautifully constructed and the quality is top notch. And I think that that would get you sort of a little bit more for it than if you just listed it without all of that information. But I think, yeah, for me, I'm going to say this is a 1970s piece. I'm pretty confident in that. And I think I would price it around like 125 to 150. And I would tag it with like holiday, you know, Christmas dress, Christmas photos, just something that, you know, like it's a long sleeve. So you've also got like, it's more of, I think it would be a great holiday dress, like a Christmas dress. So that, I feel like that's sort of where I would put my focus. And I hope that that is helpful. All right, does anyone else have any like questions while we do this? We have two things left. And then I have to take my kids to a movie, so. I picked this one. This is a Rossano collection leather jacket. And I picked this because it's sort of like something that you might find in the wild. And there's a lot of leather jackets out there from like the 70s and the early 80s. And a lot of them are going to sort of be this color where it's like almost a chocolate or like a cherry brown. And a lot of times on the tag, you're going to find that it says made in Korea. A lot of leather products in the 70s and early 80s were made in Korea. And the value is not really determined by the brand, I would say, because there's so many different brands. Occasionally you do find like a nicer leather maker that is sought after, but I don't know that this is one of them. So let's just go ahead and go to Etsy and see what we're looking at for comparable listings. So if you go to Etsy and you're typing in the brand and nothing comes up, you pretty much know that it's not something that is like sought after per se by the brand. Like if I go in and I type in Emma and then I type in D, Emma Dome is the first thing that I was thinking of. This is something that people look for. And you can see down here, prom dress, wedding dress. And so this one is not coming up with anything when we search it. And here we go. We've got one that is a leather rocker jacket. We've got a moto jacket. We've got a, this one is very similar, but I like the style of the one that we are researching more. It's a little bit more of like a bomber, like aviator sort of look to it. It's pretty cool with like the hem, and there's a lot of different pockets here. And it's got the snap collar, and it's got the like almost military snaps on the shoulder. And it's Sherpa lined, which is amazing for it being warm. This color here, you can kind of see down at the bottom, this like brownie satin color. You find that in a lot of 1970s coats. A lot of times the 1980s leather bomber jackets will have like a printed inside. So it might have like a world map print, or it might have like a bird print or something like that on the inside. But in the 70s, you really find a lot of like the solid color acetate linings. And so this one, same label really. They have this one dated from the 80s. And let's see. Why is it $200? This is interesting. It might just be like, yeah, not their specialty. Okay. So here we go. Let's try this one. This is more on par with what I am thinking of. So they've got theirs dated from the 70s. Very similar color look to it. Lots of pockets. Got more of the same structure going on here. And again, no particular information about the brand. Okay, we've got a nylon taffeta lining, so that might help know that this one is probably a nylon taffeta lining as well underneath the Sherpa. I do think with this one being 90, that because of the Sherpa, see, look, it's got a zipper in here. I bet at one point this had a Sherpa lining as well, and I bet that this one probably zips out because it only goes part of the way down and it doesn't look attached. I think that's a zipper up there. So that is really cool that it has its original Sherpa lining. This one, $90. I think probably if I were pricing this one, I would go for $150. The leather looks like it's in really good shape. It's got the original lining. And nicely made and a relatively desirable color and size. It's a 44, which is like a men's, this is like large, extra large. So let's go to newspapers. We'll just for shits and giggles see if anything comes up here. Ooh, I made sofas. Let's see. Let's check out the 70s, shall we? All right. Interesting. Shoes. Loafers. Okay. Here we go. 79. Okay. Rosano leather jackets. 1979. So 77. Let's see, where's the Rosano part? Oh, see, you got to be careful with this because there's the word leather on this page, and then there's the word Rosano up here on a radio show. So you have to make sure that they are together. You can put quotations around it if you want to, and that will make sure that it is an exact string. But for this, I'm not going to do that. All right. So yeah, I feel pretty comfortable saying 1970s. And then going for that price range, we can look up, now that we have a era, we can look up 70s leather Sherpa jacket. And let's see. So here's those suede and shearling. Oh, these Levi's Sherpa trucker jackets are nice. I had a kid's one of those. And let's see. It's faux leather though. Not great. Here's a biker jacket. 99. I'm finding a lot of like suede and shearling. That's not really what we're looking for. All right. So the fact that it's not coming up right away does tell me that it is more on the unique side. Here's a 70s black bomber jacket with a Sherpa lining for 112. Yeah, so yeah, 1 to 150 I think is a good price point for that. Right, and let's do the last one. This is a nice, like, hostess style dress. It has a funnel neck. It has like 3/4 sleeves, and it's got a very like bold psychedelic sort of print to it. It does have a front zipper and a matching sash. It is 100% cotton, and it's made in the USA. It's got like a very brushed look to it, so like a nice brushed cotton, which gives it kind of like a sateen shine. And here you've got the zipper, so it is a nylon zipper. And if this were a metal zipper, I would probably date this like late 60s. But with the nylon zipper, it's going to be from the 70s. And then when we look at this internal tag as well, you've got a lot number here. So those ended in 1979, so it's lot 1501. And you can see this like loop here. That's going to be for hanging up because, again, this is like, it's sort of a house dress, like a lounge, poolside, very like Malibu psychedelic inspired, like house lounge dress. And let's go ahead and look up Fashions by Marilyn and see if anything comes up. Did I spell that right? They are. Vintage here. So it's just a lot of like piecing together and research. Here's one. 140. That's a great price. Maybe this is a desirable brand. I'm not sure. So I think probably the two most relevant results showed up right away. This one is listed at 140, has a small hole. They say theirs is polyester. Oh yeah, definitely a synthetic. And I don't see enough of them to explain why they picked that particular value. This one is a cotton one. You can kind of see like that same sort of label. This one is lined. Not sure if ours is lined or not. And you see it's got that little loop there. So let's go. I really do love newspapers.com. I think I pay like $75 or $80 a year. I just did a full year subscription. But it's great for helping to date things that are it's like on the cusp, where it could be 60s or it could be 70s, or to see like where the bulk of the advertising happened, and so sometimes you can like find the exact thing that you are looking for. Let's go to the 70s. These are not what we're looking for. So it's not looking like this is a brand that is particularly advertised. And so I'm not sure if this person is just pricing by the fact that it's a caftan and, you know, it's got the great colors and it's got these big bell sleeves. Because it doesn't seem like this value is necessarily coming from anywhere. I do think that this one being brand new with tags and being cotton, which is a very easy care material, and then, of course, having the original belts all go in its favor. But even still, I think that if it were me, I would price it under 100. Most likely, I would go for like 89 or something around there. You could ask more, but I think you would probably be sitting on it for a little bit. Caftans are definitely popular right now, and it is a very fun print, but it's also a very bold color and like very 70s color scheme. And then the funnel neck, I think, would throw some people off if it had more of like a V with the zipper. I think that would be a little more appealing. But the funnel neck is a very distinct sort of look. And so I think for me, that would put me off of asking for a lot more than that. Yeah, so that is sort of how I do research. I'm going to flip back here. It doesn't look like you guys have any real questions or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. We've been going for about an hour. And I hope that was helpful. Usually I use a combination of Google, newspapers.com, and Etsy. Sometimes when I do search on Etsy, I can find that other sellers have put in information that helps me to follow a trail of breadcrumbs that might give me a little bit more insight into my piece. I really, really hate that Poshmark only allows 500 characters in the listings, and that is why I don't enjoy selling higher value things on Poshmark, because I feel like you want to pass on that information to your customer. However, they do let you have 16 photos, so you can put in like advertisement photos, or you can type up more detail into like a picture and then add it in with your listing. But really, I think that giving more information and sort of building the value of your piece out for the customer helps them to be willing to pay more money. And so whenever I think that I have a piece that is valuable, I do like to sort of follow that trail of breadcrumbs as much as I can and try and get as much money as I can for various pieces. So I hope that was helpful, and I will see you on Monday morning for my next video. It will be a what sold video. So I'll see you then. Bye, everyone.